State and local officials say that this decision puts Connecticut in a fight for federal dollars, and they need you to act now. Tuesday, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Trump administration's request to stop the 2020 census count. This comes weeks before the previous deadline, which was extended to the end of this month. Now, state and local officials are reacting.
The census has never before been a partisan thing. It has never before been something that a presidential administration has attacked or tried to undermine, but that's what's happening right now.
The Census Bureau's Associate Director for Field Operations testified that it was ludicrous to expect the Bureau to complete 100% of the nation's data collection earlier than October 31st in the middle of a pandemic.
And it's during these stressful times that officials urge people to get themselves counted.
Do it for your family, do it for your community. Stand up and say, we will be counted.
There's a big push for Hartford due to the capital city's low response rate of 48%, which is a stark difference compared to the state's estimated 70%. Officials explain that the government uses the census as the official count to decide federal spending and how many congressional seats a state may get. The lieutenant governor also adding programs that will be at risk, which supports vulnerable communities.
Like SNAP, Medicaid, WIC, and Head Start, federal school lunch and breakfast programs, and the like.
Officials warn if a person doesn't fill out the form, Connecticut could lose thousands, if not millions of dollars in resources. The state gets an estimated $11 billion in federal funding due to the census. The city of Hartford's Department of Public Health says to make things even more urgent, as COVID numbers spike, the state will need more resources to fight the pandemic, which some money will come to the region based on the census.
This is our opportunity to say that we're here to ensure that we have the resources to recover from the pandemic, to ensure that our voices are heard, and that we ensure that this pandemic doesn't cause more harm to us.
People have until October 16th at 6 a.m. to fill out their census form. It takes only about 10 minutes, and we have how to do so on the Fox 61 website and mobile app. We're in Hartford. Brian Ditley, Fox 61 News.